The cover page of One Punch Man Chapter 185, titled Updates, features a cool yet simple shot of our boy Genos. We open up to a forest and apparent confusion. A three-eyed chitinous monster laid on the ground with one of its claws severed, broken, and dying. It repeated the words of the person that held a sword close to its face. God? It had no idea what they were talking about. Looming over the creature was the S-Class hero, Flashy Flash, who felt like he should have expected fodder like this monster to be out of the loop. With that said, he decided to shift to another question. With an intimidating expression, he asked where he could find the other remaining members of the Monster Association. For example, one that looked like the one he'd drawn on a piece of paper. For all his exceptional talent and skill, it looks like the ninja village failed to teach him how to draw anything but his sword. Despite looking like a toddler's Monsters Inc. fan art, Flashy Flash was clearly looking for Monaco, the one-eyed pink monster he'd previously met alongside Saitama, who he seemed to have taken a liking to. For a while there, she pretty much became his sidekick and actually cared about his survival. In turn, he saved her too, so hopefully he's able to find her. It's hard to imagine what she might be up to, considering she was hardly a danger to anyone. Between her, Black S, and Rover, One Punch Man has a ton of little monster friends running around. There's even another one you might not expect coming up. The downed monster cried out that he had no idea as he managed to extend a massive hind claw from the earth towards Flashy Flash. In an instant, and with no hesitation, Flashy Flash split the entire abomination into several pieces. Looking at his crude drawing again, Flashy Flash thought to himself that Monaco was one of the few direct contacts to God he knew about. So it was of the utmost importance that he finds her. He also knew how troublesome it would be if she were to be found by another hero, and they managed to hunt her down first. Last we saw of her, Monaco was in the process of running away, but was stopped by Garo's radiation and killed alongside almost everyone else in that original timeline. Thanks to this, he began to think about Saitama, wondering if he should get Cape Baldy's help too. Remembering how the guy was fast and strong enough to stop his sword, Flashy Flash figured that despite his looks, Saitama at least had decent talent. Remember, Flashy Flash more or less knows how strong Saitama is, thanks to Genos' debriefing. He's definitely not the sort to be completely receptive to such a long-winded explanation, but he's at least more aware of the guy's strength than most others. Because of this, he thought to himself that with a top-tier mentor, Saitama might actually be of some use. And at that, Saitama continues to earn the attention of high-ranking heroes. These days, it will be much harder for him to go by undetected. One Punch Man always seems to find a way, but honestly, I'm really curious to see how this will play out for King, who pretty much banks on Saitama's lack of exposure. Besides Flashy Flash, Sweet Mask also seems to be looking at Saitama favorably as a possible apprentice. Whether or not he chooses to go along with them will more or less depend on their approach. Sweet Mask is a pretty forward guy that would probably need to mention something vain in passing, like hero discounts or something. While Flashy Flash might just have to bank on Saitama's desire to help a friend in need. This time in the form of Monaco, who he also seemed to be pretty cool with by the end of things. But with all that, Flashy Flash made his way elsewhere. In a gym, we would see Tank Top Master, who just finished working out and was already back to his former physical glory. As he inspected himself, he mentioned how the power-up Fubuki had given him towards the end of the last arc that boosted the fit and elasticity of his tank top had finally worn off. Again, he wasn't as burly anymore, and although they didn't say it out loud, his former tank toppers seemed to be pretty relieved. Either way, there was something he wanted to talk to them about. This was their 37th tank top meeting, and the topic at hand was elasticity. But Tank Top Master was pretty surprised to see so few of their members make an appearance. One of them would express that there were a number of tank top enthusiasts that ultimately retired from hero work after seeing the sheer scale of danger and devastation wrought by the Monster Association. Realizing that they couldn't possibly keep up, even A-class heroes like Tank Top Vegetarian decided to quit. But despite this negative sentiment and situation, Tank Top Master assured them all that everything would be okay. That instead of going out of their way to hunt down everyone that left, they should be especially thankful for all those who chose to stick around. But even more than that, as he touched upon his forehead, Tank Top Master let it be known that he could apparently feel a so-called new tank top wind blowing in. Right on cue, the door behind one of his subordinates opened up to reveal several heroes. They would each introduce themselves. There was the rank 347 C-Class hero Hayatoko, the rank 141 C-Class hero Gas Mask Cowboy, and the rank 295 C-Class hero Studless Mask. We actually knew about these guys from a data book back in 2015, but 2 of their names have been slightly changed. Hayatoko was described as fighting with a battle style that includes the loach scooping dance, and his mask is made of metal. Studless Mask loves car tires so much that he carved their marks onto his costume. And Gas Mask Cowboy is someone who tames skunks and catches monsters with a rope. They each proceeded to throw their respective tops in the air, then reveal their very own tank tops. According to them, they were all deeply moved by Tank Top Master's performance on the battlefield and had come to ask to be taken into the fold of their tank top group. The others were delighted by the prospect of new recruits, as Tank Top Master thanked them all for coming out. He was hoping that they would all be able to train together in pursuit of even greater mastery of tank top wearing. From there, we would make our way to a crosswalk, where we'd see the familiar face of the monster once referred to as Phoenix Man as he blew a whistle. He did this as a means of helping school children safely cross the street, all of whom seemed to be delighted by his adorable new look. But as they crossed with their hands raised, Monster Chick Man noticed his former adversary, Child Emperor, was waiting for him. After going to a cafe together, Monster Chick Man explained that although he had been left in such a weakened state after Child Emperor so thoroughly defeated him, one might expect him to continue aspiring towards gathering more power and reclaiming his former glory as Phoenix Man. But even he was surprised by his willingness to stay chick-sized. Phoenix Man, at the height of his power, was ridiculously strong. Thanks to his insane resurrection ability, Phoenix Man was one of the very few monsters with actual growth potential, something reserved for only the absolute strongest of monsters like Garo. His Phoenix Prominence Hawk mode was especially terrifying, and it looked as though he might even have the potential to grow even further. For this reason, Child Emperor remained cautious as he kept a weapon at the ready beneath the table. Monster Chick Man urged him to settle down. Right now, he was just a powerless rare creature that was trying his best to find a way of life in their society through acts of charity. Just then, the many children he now frequently assisted would notice and call out to him, much to his apparent pleasure and Child Emperor's disinterest. As he took a sip of his coffee, he admitted to being happy with his current line of work. All that being said, he still didn't know what Child Emperor wanted from him. As he slurped away at his ice-cold soda, Child Emperor reminded Monster Chick Man of the dark side of the Hero Association the creature mentioned before, which he'd now confirm to unfortunately be true. Because of this, he demanded to know the source of this intel along with everything the chick knew. In another location, an obscene amount of heavy weights would fall to the ground, breaking it. In front of a mirror, it was a tired Darkshine with a shirt on and belt for deadlifting. As he looked down, he admitted to himself that it was no use. Removing his shirt, he thought to himself how no matter how much he trained and trained, he was still hopelessly afraid of the next battle. Now revealing the scars, or at least unresolved missing patches of tan that once completely enveloped his body, this was all the damage both physically and mentally he picked up from his fight against Garo. He simply could not handle the life of a hero anymore. At the same time, the absolute baddie of a B-class hero, Mizuki, was peeking in on his training and sorry state, as she worried for her senior lifter and hero. Moving on to some action, a massive crowd was rushing away in absolute horror. Several plant-based monstrosities had flooded the streets and were even overtaking the surrounding buildings. As the newscaster would say, this horrible scene was actually in Y City. A group of monsters that called themselves the Forest Folk had begun their invasion towards the city center. Many government buildings and roads had been physically blocked off. They planned to restore nature to the planet by fertilizing the earth with the corpses of all humans, what they believed to be their divine reason for existence. Their disaster level was ascribed to be Tiger, but I'm wondering if this is their collective or individual level. If it's as a group, that's not so bad. If it's every single one of them, there's overwhelming strength in numbers, so this is a pretty big deal, which I'm assuming to actually be the case. A stick of dynamite flew through the air as a man demanded that the creature stay away. This managed to successfully take out a number of them. But with how many troops they had in comparison to this relatively tiny ensemble of low-ranking heroes, things weren't looking good. The rank 221 C-class hero Dynamite Man, who thrown the explosives, was frustrated by their ineffectiveness. Their only saving grace at this point was the fact that the mob of humanoid monsters moved so slowly. The other heroes on the scene were B-class rank 39 Recluse Samurai, C-class rank 179 Ecologramps, and A-class rank 11 Magic Trick Man. They had been surrounded and would be done for if they got caught by the Horde's tendrils. So Magic Trick Man urged them to follow his lead. Spinning and twirling his hat and wand, Magic Trick Man released his rainbow smokescreen and Savage White Crow's technique simultaneously. From there, he told them all to follow his lead by pushing past them during all the confusion. This proved to be a terrible strategy, as each of them ended up gripped by the very thing they had hoped to avoid. But thankfully, the tank toppers made a sudden appearance with a combined tank top tackle attack, which freed them all from the roots. Magic Trick Man was surprised to see the group, but Tank Top Master told them all not to back down and to follow behind them. And for a while, this actually worked. They blazed a straight path through the entire collective, but Tank Top Master's attack was halted by something big. Looking up, they were all terrified by what they saw. A wicked, two-faced, eight-eyed colossal tree monster suspended them all in the air with its roots. This was the Forest King, a disaster-level dragon threat that intended to kill them all. And at this rate, it was only a matter of time. He planned to use them all as fertilizer to feed his many sons, who he'd command to continue their march. But in an instant following the words incinerate, the thousands of plant men had all been eradicated by an explosion even bigger than the Forest King and surrounding skyscrapers. Everyone that remained was stunned. The culprit began to glow and emerge from the smoke as he confirmed his new firepower to be perfectly suitable, commending the technological advancements of Dr. Kusheno. He was now much better built to eliminate dragon-level threats, and I'm assuming he's probably up to par with the cyborg fusion form we saw from him and Drive Knight, which is really exciting. In fact, he actually longed to challenge his master Saitama to another sparring match like we saw during the early days of the series. And considering this is coming from the one guy that actually knows just how strong Saitama really is and felt it firsthand, that's one of the boldest statements we have ever seen. And that's really saying something when every other character claims themselves to be a world-ending threat. And I'm not just talking about that previous match between them. Thanks to analyzing the data found in his alternate timeline core, Genos knew all about Saitama's real fight against Garo. I can't wait to see him in a serious fight again. But before then, Genos, with his latest upgrades completed, was prepared to eliminate the Forest King. And just like that, in an instant, he did. Back home, Saitama wondered if Genos had changed parts again, which he had. Now, the thing to note here is that Saitama seems to have gotten a proper replacement for his costume that had been destroyed during his fight against Garo. Elsewhere, Tank Top Master was all fired up after being saved by Genos. He was upset with himself for allowing machine power to get ahead of him yet again. He needed more training. On the wall was a sign that read, "Defeat them. Psychic power, machine power." They all planned to aim for even more mastery of tank top wearing, which thoroughly confused the new recruits. As always, I'm Slice Motaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.